Hello, viewer. I usually, during this part of the video, I show you me setting up my week. And I thought instead of showing you how I set up my week, I would go through and explain my setup. I tend to think that it's self-explanatory, so if you can hear my printer in the background, I'm so sorry. I am printing out some sheets to make a notepad, which I already started filming footage of that, and I will show you some of that, or you may have already seen it depending on where I place this in the video. But I'm making a notepad, and that's my printer going in the background, and also somebody seems to be cutting branches on their tree outside or something, so there's some other loud noises. And to top it all off, the camera is a little crooked. I keep trying to straighten it out and it's not working the way I want it. And I think it has something to do with the way my spouse was finagling with it earlier. Not to put the blame on him, but it was working fine before, and then he messed with some things on it, and now it's barely holding up my phone. So I'm sorry if it starts drooping. Hopefully it won't get to that point. But I'll ask him later how to fix it. So hopefully the rest of the video isn't like that. But anyway, all that is to say that I want to talk to you about how I set up my week. And instead of just setting it up for you and showing you how I set it up, I thought I would explain it. And so this week. Actually, I'm going to go to the week before so you can see it all filled out. And the first thing I start with when I'm setting up my week is I set up these 3 columns. I have this little column, a big column, and then this sort of medium-sized column. And this first column is obviously for weather. I like to track the weather. It originated from the idea that to help my memory, as I've explained before, I have a terrible memory. And I thought, trying to remember something, if I'm like, oh, that happened on the day it rained. What day did it rain? And I can look at my planner and see, oh, it rained on the 16th. So that must have been the day this thing happened. That's how it originated. And then just over the last couple years, I think I've been tracking the weather. And then for a while this year, I stopped because I didn't think there was space in the Hobonichi Weeks to track the weather, but I've made space for it. And over the years, I just kind of fell in love with seeing, I don't know, just the trends in the weather and how it changes throughout the year and how year to year things are similar or things are different, and being able to be like, oh, last year at this time we were having this type of weather. And for some reason that's been fun for me, whereas in the past I couldn't do that because day to day I can barely do that because my memory is so bad and keeping track of time is so bad for me. I'm just completely oblivious when it comes to the passage of time. And so this has just been fun for me to track the weather. I know it sounds very nerdy, but I'm enjoying it. And then this second column here, I do little journal entries each week, or each day. And usually the next morning, I journal about the night before or the day before, and I'll say things like what happened during that day, or I'll say things like how I was feeling, where my energy levels were, how I was doing mentally, if anything pops out that way. So for example, on Monday here, I wrote doing pretty good, finished lesson planning early, so we were able to make soup for dinner, felt productive, class went well too. And so that day I can see I was feeling pretty good and I was feeling productive, and I could see that when I feel good, I tend to be productive. is something that I've noticed by writing these little tiny entries, which has helped me because in the past I've thought of myself as a lazy person, but it's really my energy levels. When they dip because of the narcolepsy, obviously am not as productive, and it's hard for me to move. It's hard for me to get out of bed, and some days are just worse than others. And I just thought of myself as a lazy person, but actually when I have the energy, I'm really good at motivating myself. And when I have the energy, I tend to be productive and on top of things and a lot more organized than when I am sleep deprived, which is basically I'm chronically sleep deprived. And I'm not really all that lazy when I can feel like my true authentic self, if that makes any sense. But all that is to say, I like putting these little entries each day. And at the end of the week, I will review these entries. I'll read each one to sort of refresh my memory of how the week went, because otherwise things that happened on Monday might feel like it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, as opposed to being in the same week as Friday, for example. That's how bad my concept of time is. When I make these little entries, I can review it at the end of the week, and then I can remember that, well, place it in my mind that this is all 1 week. And then I write my weekly reflection. And as I've explained before, sometimes the weekly reflection starts off based on this. How did my week go? And I can see if there's any trends, any patterns that I'm noticing in my mood and my energy levels. And I can reflect on that. And then the second part of my reflection is usually, where do I want to go? So how has my week been? And then the second part is, where do I want to go from here? And so this just helps me out with that because, like I said, my concept of time is really bad. And this helps with my memory too. And then this third column is just events that are going on throughout the day. So I write down appointments or any little memos that I need to know about that day. And then over here is where the magic sort of happens. I start with my top 3 priorities for the week, and then I have just 3 things that I list here. And I don't necessarily sit here and think, oh, what are my top 3 priorities this week? Because when I ask myself that, it becomes confusing in my brain. And like my brain just kind of malfunctions when I'm like, what are my top 3 priorities? And why is this more important than this? And so what I ask myself instead is, if because of my energy levels, I can only get 3 things done during the week, what 3 things would make me feel the most satisfied with my week? So instead of asking myself, what's the 3 most important things I need to get done? I ask myself, what are the 3 things that would make me feel most satisfied? Make me feel less like I'm running behind all the time, or less like I am not accomplishing anything. And so I put those there, and it's a nice reminder as I go through the week and I'm making my to-do list each day to work on these 3 things, because I know by the end of the week, even if my energy levels are really low, I can feel that I accomplished something and I can have some sort of feeling of satisfaction. And then the rest of my to-dos, I have things that I want to get done throughout the week, and I divide those things into urgent and not urgent. As I've explained before, I have a hard time prioritizing things in my head, so I need to do it down on paper. And so sitting down and thinking about, for example, going through my priority mail, I have a folder called Priority. I can show you my folder sometime. Maybe that would be kind of fun if anybody's interested. I put that under urgent because I want to do that sooner rather than later, because there's some bills coming up that are due. Not urgent, things I want to get done that week, but they're not as important as these urgent tasks. Or not necessarily not as important. They can be just as important. For example, writing to my pen pal is important to me on different levels, the same way as going through and sorting the mail is important on a adulting type level. Both of these are important things that I want to get done that week, whether they're just important to me personally or they're important to the family or whatever. But the things over here, they need to get done sooner, and the things over here can wait. And so when I'm going through and making my list each day, I can see that which things I should be prioritizing over these things. And oftentimes, and I don't think I did it during this week, but I try to make sure I'm prioritizing something that is self-care related. So maybe I might, instead of putting it in not urgent, put right pen pal over in the urgent column or something that is taking care of myself. I did do some self-care this week. I just didn't write it down under my urgent list, but I try to not just think of due dates when I say urgent, but the need, the way they need to be done, or how urgently they need to be done, which sometimes there's not a due date on something, but it's important and it's still urgent in that it needs done sooner rather than later, or something's gonna fall apart. And I can go more into that sort of philosophy sometime if people are interested in prioritizing and stuff like that. I'm still learning how to prioritize because I'm terrible at it, but I'm learning as I go, and I've been doing this for a while, and it's been really helpful. And it helps me learn a lot about myself. It helps me learn a lot about prioritizing things. And yeah, so I have my urgent list and my not urgent list, both of which are important. And then down here I have my notes, and these are just things I jot down throughout the week that I want to remember, because again, my memory's bad. So if something happens, or I need to make note of something, or I'm on the phone with someone and I need to jot something down, this is the section to do it. And then down here, I have my habit tracker, because I can be terrible at remembering things. So it's nice to have a daily sort of list of routine things that I want to do each day. I don't pressure myself to necessarily do everything every day, but it's sort of like, this is the ideal day I would do these things. And not every day is an ideal day. So not every day is going to have everything checked off, because sometimes my energy levels are just bad. But on my habits, I have home tasks, which are basically this stuff, making sure I'm working on that. Work tasks for my job, and exercise, drinking water, journaling, and creating something. And I don't put a number or specify things on here. For example, I just have water. I don't say drink 8 cups of water a day. I feel like that is unrealistic. The idea that you're supposed to drink 8 glasses of water a day isn't really true anyway. It's supposed to be 8 cups of water total, including your intake of food. Anyway, the water you get from eating food and vegetables and fruits and stuff. So there's your random tidbit for the day. For each day, I just say, if I tried working on some home tasks, even if I just set a timer for 5 minutes and say, okay, just work on a chore for 5 minutes, and then I'll check it off. Sometimes after that 5 minutes, or a lot of times, it's just building that momentum and getting started. So if I tell myself I only have to do it for 5 minutes, I can get myself at least started. And then once I get started, the momentum's flowing. And after that 5 minutes, my alarm goes off. I can feel like, you know what, I can go a little bit longer. I can go 5 minutes longer. And so I usually get more done that way. Whereas opposed to if I set a goal to get like 5 chores done before I could check something off, I would probably hardly ever check anything off, not because I wouldn't get 5 things done, but because having that bar set so high is intimidating, and then I feel frozen and stuck. And so I don't start working on it. Whereas if I set the bar really low, I can, and to where it feels manageable at the energy levels that I am at for that day, then I can say, okay, I can at least get started. I can at least do 5 minutes. I can at least drink 1 glass of water. And once I get started, I'll realize, oh, I'm thirstier than I thought. I can actually drink more water than that. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where water, like you want something like a pop or something, or a soda, depending on where you're from, one of those carbonated beverages. You think water doesn't sound good, but a lot of times I'll be like, okay, before I reach for that sugary drink, I'm just going to tell myself, drink 1 glass of water and then you can have it. And then I start drinking the water and I'm like, actually, this tastes pretty good. I think I am thirsty. I'm not just craving sugar right now. I am actually thirsty, and this is better for my thirst than the sugary drink, the sugary carbonated drink. And so I will then drink more water than I originally planned to. And again, it's just getting started and building the momentum. I know a lot of people, this probably sounds backwards. Like if I'm not setting the bar high for myself, then I'm not accomplishing much. But when you have a disability, especially, you have to use these little tricks to get your brain to cooperate with you. And when you have something that affects you physically, you have to sort of meet yourself where you're at, which is why I don't put numbers here. I can each day say, what do I mean by home tasks? Well, today my energy levels tell me that I can't do any home tasks right now. So if I can just do one thing, if I get one thing done, even though it feels like I can do none, then I'll go ahead and check it off. If my energy levels are higher, of course, I'm more able to motivate myself, and therefore I can challenge myself to do, oh, I'll do 3 tasks, or I'll work on this big project, or, different things according to where I'm at during that day. So that's why I don't really specify. I don't really say exercise for 20 minutes. I just say go outside and take a walk. So that was a lot of explanation into my personal life to explain my weekly setup. But I think the insights in this is so personal to me because of the personal stuff in my life. And the way I've adapted the Hobonichi Weeks is because of these personal things in my life, because of the way my brain works, because of my energy levels and my mental health struggles. This is just what I've found to work. My dream is to and I've been working on this a little bit, make a planner of my own that just sort of has this set up for me where I don't have to put so much effort into it each week to set up the columns and set up my priorities, urgent, not urgent notes and habits, and just have it all laid out for me. And so I've been working on that and making it a traveler's notebook size. And next year I may be in a traveler's notebook, who knows? And I may be using my own planner, so that could be exciting stuff. But for now, I'm just adapting the Hobonichi Weeks to work for me, as opposed to me working for it, if that makes sense. So I'll probably keep adapting this and I'll keep changing it up because I do get bored easily. And as a result, I tend to change how things are set up. Anyway, I hope that was insightful in some way, or entertaining at least. I don't know why it would be entertaining. But if you're like me and you like seeing people's setups and planners, or you like seeing the inside of a planner, then this was probably fun for you, because I'm a nerd, and if you're watching this, you're probably a nerd too. Anyway, I'm going to get back to making my notepad, and I will hopefully talk to you later. Hello, viewer. I wanted to give you a few updates on some things, and so I thought I would just pop on, as they say. First thing I want to show you is that I have completed my very first homemade notepad. So I designed these pages myself, and it works pretty much like the weekly setup I showed you, only it's for day to day. So this is what I make my daily to-do list out of. It has a place for me to put the date, put a schedule, so morning, afternoon, evening, whatever I have going on during that, so I have a place where I could just glance and not forget any appointments or anything, even though they go off on my phone, but it's still nice to be able to see my day at a glance. And then again, the top 3 priorities. I ask myself, if I only have the energy to complete 3 things today, what 3 things would make me feel the most satisfied? And then I write those 3 things down here, and the rest of my tasks I divide by urgent and not urgent. And I have a little place for notes down here, or for brainstorming. Sometimes I'll just like jot down all the things that I think need to get done, like do sort of a brain drain, as Megan Rihanna likes to say, and I love that so much more than saying brain dump. But having a brainstorm and just putting everything down here and then looking at it, taking a step back, and then dividing it up from urgent to not urgent. So, and I printed it front and back. So, and you can see this page didn't print out fully, but that's okay. There was an error with my printer, but the rest of the pages are fine. I'll make do. And so when I am done going through all these pages, I can flip it over, re-glue the top, and I have another notepad because I printed on the back as well. And so I always hate notepads that don't have the grids or whatever it is they have on them on the back, because I feel like it's just such a waste. And yes, that's my glue job there. The cardboard that I used for the back, this came with the 5x7 inch paper that I bought, and to keep the paper nice and neat, and so it was just already cut to size and everything, which was really nice. So I'm really excited to be able to use this. I've already been using these sheets for a long while now. They're very helpful for me. I just thought it would be nice to have them in a notepad where they're all stuck together, as opposed to me having them loosely lying around. And I'm actually going to hang it on a clipboard and hang it up on my wall over my teaching area as soon as I get my teaching area set up. Speaking of teaching, I finished my first session of teaching ESL online. So that was pretty exciting for me. Having gone so long without working, it's been a few years, because as I explained before, I had a really rough time mentally and physically. And we were actually thinking about having me apply for disability because I was so bad. But I have been doing much better, and I have been eager to get back to work and doing something that helps contribute an income to our family, but also doing something that feels meaningful to me. So teaching ESL kind of checks those boxes. For us to really get by, because we're eating through our savings, I need to pick up more hours. But I'm feeling, after finishing this session, I feel more confident that I can pick up more hours somewhere, because I started with just teaching. This class is only 2 hours a night, which actually is quite long when you think about a 2-hour class, but I only teach one class. So that's 8 hours a week, and with office hours and the prep work I do and everything, I work about 11.25 hours a week with meetings and everything. I actually work more than that, but that's what I can log for my hours. I work more than that because there's some things I have to put together, and I'm new this session, so it just took me longer to get back into the swing of lesson planning and developing digital literacy type lessons. And I think now that I'm back in the habit of doing that, and that I have a flow going, I think next session it's going to go much easier, which should help me free up more time to work more hours somewhere, if not teaching, then doing some sort of part-time job. The goal is for me to pick up more hours, so we'll see how that goes. I'm quite nervous. It terrifies me because with narcolepsy, working is very much a struggle, because day to day I don't know what my energy levels are going to be like until I'm in that day or in that moment. And my energy levels can drop so suddenly that it feels like I'm going to collapse. sometimes I'll shut up about narcolepsy for now and instead update you on my 2024 system. I am still going to use the Hobonichi Weeks, this one that I have. It is very unlike me to spend so much money as this thing costs, and decide I'm not going to use it or I'm going to use something else. So I'm sticking with this. Nothing's changed there. But as far as commonplacing goes, last time I showed you the making of a homemade notebook, and I was really proud of it, and I thought I would do that over Thanksgiving break, but then I had what I refer to in my head as the perfect storm happen, which was that I was stressed, which makes narcolepsy worse, and I was running out of meds and felt the need to save them for when I was teaching again, because I was on a break and I was worried I wouldn't get my next prescription in until after I started teaching again, and I really needed those meds for teaching, so I was saving those meds. So I was off my meds, and at the same time I was PMSing, which for some people PMS makes you really tired. And so on top of the narcolepsy, I have my hormones making me tired as well. And it was just sort of the perfect storm of me hardly getting anything done, just going into survival mode where I just get done what needs to get done and the rest of the time I'm sleeping. So I did not make the notebooks like I had planned to. But then after I got to thinking about it, I thought that was kind of silly of me to put that on myself, to make notebooks for the next year when I have notebooks lying around that need used up. It's not like me to keep buying notebooks and not have a purpose for them, but somehow I wound up with these notebooks out of purpose. Well, the field notes I got these for my birthday. I wanted these for commonplacing because I saw some people use these for commonplacing, and I think they're so cute. So Megan Rhiannon used them for a while for commonplacing, and her commonplace book was really cute. And somebody I follow on Instagram called Dozy Ghoul, I think, has used field notes, I believe. I've seen various people using field notes, and I just think they're so cute as a commonplace book. And so I got these for my birthday, which was in November, and thought I really should use them. Why am I stressing myself out about making homemade notebooks when I have notebooks already that need used up, that need a purpose? I'm using one of these notebooks. It's one of the brown ones right now, as I have it right here actually. I'm using this as my commonplace / journal. It is quite thin, which is nice in a way because you get the satisfaction of quickly filling up a notebook and being done with it. And I like that feeling of coming to the end and then starting a new one is exciting to me. And, you know, that sort of feeling of completion, that satisfaction you get from completing something. So you get that with it, but I want to do more journaling in the new year. So I have a feeling that using these, I'm going to go through them quite quickly, but I do have them on hand, so it's not really a problem. I have 4 of these. So I have, between these and the field notes, I don't know, I might be covered for the year, I might not be, but I also have these notebooks that I had made, that I had designed myself, and I'm eager to try them out to see how they work, to see if I like the paper, to see if the layout works for me. You can see I have this gridded layout with the margin in there and page numbers. It's quite nice. It is big, like I said before, but part of me is wondering the bigger space might be nice to have, especially if I'm doing a lot more journaling and not just doing reflection pages and commonplacing. I also want to do more commonplacing where I copy out articles and quotes from books and things, and not just quotes that I come across or poetry that I find. And so I'm going to need more space for that. And so this might work nicely. I don't know which I'll use first. I think one nice thing about using up what I have is that I can change it up throughout the year. So when I finish one notebook, I have the option to go to something different, because I am the type of person that likes to change things up. I like change once in a while. And as much as I rely on routines, I do like to change things up. And so I think this will be nice because I have these 3 options that I can go through back and forth throughout the year. Again, I don't know which one I'll start with. I'm thinking maybe one of the notebooks I designed, because I'm just really excited to try it out. Yeah, I may try this. And I'm kind of excited about having more space, even though I was complaining about them being too big last time. See, I go back and forth between what I want to use, what I want to do. And so it could be nice just having these 3 options that I can turn to throughout the year when I finish one of them up. So that's that. So I could do like I was planning before and bind them together if I want to carry them out together. I have a feeling this would stay home most of the time. Maybe. I could see myself wanting to go to a coffee shop though and commonplace a little bit, but I don't know. I don't go out that much, in case you haven't guessed. But that is what I plan to do for 2024. That'll be cute together, I think. And these always fit like right in the back here, which is really nice. They just slide, because they're so thin, and they just slide in right there. I love it. But it is what I'm currently using, and so I'm like, maybe I'm tired of that. And so next time I'm probably either going to use field notes or one of my own notebooks. So I'm very happy with that plan because I'm using up what I have. And I also get to try something different. One thing that I don't get to do is sort of archive them all the same way. I have a box I might put them all in, but I was really hoping to have a uniform size I work with so that I can archive them all in the same box or something where I can put them in order and have a nice collection where I can see, oh, these are the notebooks I went through. As far as my 2023 Hobonichi goes, it's coming along nicely, and I've really enjoyed it, and I don't have any regrets about purchasing another one for this year, even though I usually from year to year change up what I do. But this has just been working so well for me that I thought, why, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And one thing I am running into though is I feel the need to finish this whole book. And I bought this in April. So at the beginning of the year, I thought I would use the A6 Hobonichi Techo and use that as like a bullet journal. Excuse me. Sorry, my brain just went in 10 different directions. That's why there was that long pause there. So I was using that, and then I was like, this isn't working for me. And in April, I saw there were April start date Hobonichi Weeks books that were available on jetpens.com, and so I went after this one. As you can see, it's got water damage. Oops. But, so I bought this in April, so it goes all the way through March of next year, which means I have an extra 3 months in this book, but I'll be using this one for planning starting in January. So I don't know what I'm going to use the January through March part of this book for. So I am asking you, fellow viewer, I'm not viewing it. I am asking you, viewer, fellow planner, are there any ideas of what I could do for those extra 3 months I have in here? What I could track or plan or something. I want to use it for something. I want to finish the book. And I want to start planning in this one in January. So if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. And I think that is all I wanted to update you on for now. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to update you on. I really hope you're enjoying the videos. This video is particularly chatty. So far this is the second talking segment in this video that I've filmed so far. And then I'm planning on filming another one on Friday. So this is a chatty video. Let me know if you like them chatty or if you prefer just some of the visuals. And let me know if this video gets too long, if you like them shorter. Maybe I can, in the future, I can split things up when I have too much footage going on. But for now, thank you for watching, and I hope you have the sweetest dreams. Hello, viewer. I thought that in some of these videos it might be nice, at least for me, to have a segment about narcolepsy where I can talk about my experiences with narcolepsy and talk about what narcolepsy is and the research that is being done with it, in case it helps other people, but also because I just need somewhere to talk about it. I read a lot about narcolepsy, obviously, and I try to keep up with the research, and I try to learn about it because it is a condition that I have. And so today I thought I would keep it short because this video is already very long, and just talk about what narcolepsy is and the symptoms of narcolepsy. So narcolepsy is a sleep disorder, and it is characterized by excessive daytime sleepiness, which is just a way of saying you are very, very sleepy all the time. And this goes beyond your normal sleepiness. Like sometimes I tell people, oh, I feel sleepy today, and they're like, well, everybody's sleepy. But with narcolepsy, it's different because you're chronically sleep deprived because you don't get restorative sleep. More on that later. And you can fall asleep suddenly and or sleep a lot. You can fall asleep quickly. You can fall asleep almost anywhere. At least I can. I've fallen asleep at loud parties before. I've fallen asleep in the middle of a grocery store and, you know, other stores too. I've fallen asleep, and I can fall asleep obviously in public. I've fallen asleep at coffee shops and such and dozed off and taken a nap. It's more than just being tired. You are, like I said, chronically sleep deprived. And so a lot of the symptoms of narcolepsy are symptoms of sleep deprivation. And so obviously the main symptom is that you are excessively sleepy. Other symptoms of narcolepsy include sleep paralysis, which you can have sleep paralysis without having narcolepsy. But if you have other symptoms of narcolepsy in addition to sleep paralysis, it could be a good idea to get a sleep study done and get it checked out. If you don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's where your brain, upon falling asleep or as you're waking up, your brain jumps into REM sleep. That's one of the characteristics of narcolepsy, actually, is that you can, usually during a sleep cycle, your brain takes 60 to 90 minutes before it enters into a REM stage of sleep. And this is the stage of sleep where you dream. And with narcolepsy, your brain will jump into REM sleep within 15 minutes. That's one of the things they check for, actually, during the sleep study, is how quickly you jump into REM sleep. So sleep paralysis is where your brain sort of jumps into REM sleep too quickly. And it does it while you are falling asleep or while you're waking up. You're lying there, and then all of a sudden you're dreaming, but you're not unconscious yet. You're not asleep yet. And so you start seeing things or hearing things, you start hallucinating, but actually what's happening is you're dreaming, but you're seeing things like over on top of what's in the room. Because you can look around and you can see what's in the room. But on top of that, you can also see things that you're dreaming about. And oftentimes, for some reason, they're really creepy and really scary. And sleep paralysis can be quite terrifying because not only are you hallucinating things, but you can't move. That's why it's called sleep paralysis. And usually your body, when it goes into the REM stage of sleep, it paralyzes itself, so that way you don't act out your dreams in your sleep. It keeps you from running in your sleep or punching somebody in your sleep or something. And so with during the REM stage of sleep, your body paralyzes itself. So during sleep paralysis, you are paralyzed. You can kind of look around the room, but that's all you can do. And so if you try to scream, you'll find that hardly anything comes out. And sometimes it makes like a weird noise, like, because you're trying to scream, but you're paralyzed. And because of that, people have called this in the past old hag syndrome, because you sound like an old hag, I guess, when you're trying to scream during sleep paralysis, during this terrifying experience. Some people have also, I don't know, there have been many names for it in the past, but it's sleep paralysis. And it's a fascinating subject for me. I could go on and on about sleep paralysis, but I won't in this video, but I hope to do a segment on it in the future. So if you are fascinated with sleep paralysis like I am, stay tuned. It's not fun to experience, but reading about it and learning about it is just fascinating to me. And another symptom of narcolepsy is hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations, which is just a fancy way of saying you're hallucinating while you're either falling asleep or while you're waking up. Like hypnagogic is while you're falling asleep, I believe. And so basically you'll, like sleep paralysis, except you're not paralyzed. You are experiencing some sort of hallucination before you're fully asleep, before you fall asleep. So it's quite scary sometimes and quite alarming. I've gone to go to bed, and all of a sudden I heard an explosion and jumped up out of bed and was trying to see what was going on. But it turns out that I was the only one who heard it, because it was a hallucination of mine. And that's happened more than once, to the point where sometimes I'll hear an explosion and I'm like, oh, I'm hallucinating again. Last night, I actually kept hearing my dog barking in the other room, but she was actually asleep next to me, and I could see she was sleeping next to me. But as I was laying there relaxed, I would just suddenly hear her barking in the other room. Don't know why that's what I was hallucinating, but it can be alarming if you don't know what it is. So another symptom of narcolepsy is cataplexy. And cataplexy, I think, is rarely seen outside of narcolepsy. So if you have cataplexy, that's a big sign that you should get a sleep study done. And it is basically the loss of muscle tone, or the loss of control of your muscles. And it usually happens with a big, intense emotion. And when I first read about cataplexy, I kind of had written it off as not me, because it made me think of when it said it happens with big, intense emotions. I was thinking of, like women swooning, or, having such a big fright that you faint. But actually, what this experience is most of the time happens with more of the positive emotions. So feeling elated and feeling very happy, or laughing a lot for some reason, is a big trigger for cataplexy. It can happen when you're scared, and it can happen for other reasons. So it just basically feels like your muscles aren't working. You're still conscious, but you feel disoriented during it. Like for me, I feel overly exhausted, this overwhelming sort of exhaustion where I have a hard time focusing on what's going on around me when it happens. It's like I said, it's very disorienting, and it can be very subtle at times. Like sometimes my face will just kind of droop, or I'll feel like I just can't get words out. Like I just can't control my mouth and form words to get them out. And other times it's a full-on collapse. It's like just all my muscles just turn to jelly, and I just completely collapse on the floor. In fact, that is why I was originally tested for epilepsy, is because they thought maybe it was a seizure. But it turns out it was cataplexy. And I want to say that you can have narcolepsy without cataplexy. That is called type 2 narcolepsy. Type 1 narcolepsy is where cataplexy is present. And so if you experience something like that, and it can be not often. Some people only experience cataplexy once or twice a year. Other people may experience it daily. And it can be quite extreme and debilitating for some people, whereas other people, it's just a once in a while event. And some people, it just happens so subtly that it is not, I don't want to say it's not noticeable, because you notice something is off, but you don't sit there and think, oh, I should get this checked out. It's not fun. If you experience something like that, though, and you're tired all the time, even if you're not tired all the time, I would go to a sleep doctor just to get that checked out, because there is treatment for cataplexy. Obviously, when you have narcolepsy, you're extremely tired all the time. Like I said, you're sleep deprived. So I think it goes without saying that you tend to have experience a lot of brain fog. At least I do. Sometimes it feels like I am moving through a pool of water and there's just resistance all around me, and I feel like I just can't move my limbs, and it feels like my brain is just slow and everything is coming at me slowly, and my thoughts are hard to grasp onto. It's a terrible experience to go day to day like that, because you feel like you can't work, you feel like you can't do normal household tasks. And for me, at least, the brain fog can be quite extreme. So it might be an obvious symptom that if you're tired all the time that you're going to have brain fog, but I thought I'd mention that is a common symptom. Another symptom of narcolepsy would be automatic behavior, which just means you kind of continue your task or whatever behavior you were performing before you fell asleep, after you fall asleep. So you could be in the middle of eating something, and if you've ever seen like children do this a lot, like where they're like sort of falling asleep but they're still scooping food into their mouth. So that is common with narcolepsy. You could be taking notes on something as you're falling asleep and you're still writing on the paper as you're sleeping, and you continue that on for a little bit. And that is also one of the symptoms of narcolepsy. Those are the main symptoms that I can think of right off the top of my head. There's probably more. I mean, there are more. I know there's more than what is coming to me right now as I sit in front of the camera. But I think those are some of the major ones. And so if you're experiencing excessive daytime sleepiness, where you just feel like you're more tired than other people and you're walking through mud trying to get through your day, and you feel like you could fall asleep and nap at any time. Obviously sleep attacks are a symptom of narcolepsy. So that's just where you suddenly feel the need to take a nap. You have to sleep. And you could try to fight it. You could try to fight a sleep attack, because in the past I always fought sleep attacks, but eventually it's going to catch up to you and your body's just going to be like, no, you need to sleep right now. And a sleep attack, it's not necessarily without warning, because usually it happens on a day you're especially tired, and you I don't know, you get this feeling like you're more prone to the sleep attacks. At least I do, on certain days where I am my narcolepsy feels less controlled and I feel overly tired and too much like I'm in my own head and cannot break out of it. And then I can feel I'm prone to a sleep attack, that I'm going to fall asleep at any moment. And so that's probably an obvious symptom I should have mentioned first right off the bat, because that's the most obvious symptom of narcolepsy are the sleep attacks, and probably the most stereotypical ones. Oftentimes you'll see in movies, like somebody will say they have narcolepsy and they'll just fall asleep without warning. That's not exactly what a sleep attack looks like. Like I said, you kind of do feel it coming on, and you're not just suddenly very lively and jumping around or dancing and then just like fall asleep. You can tell you're very tired and that it's going to come on. So it's not necessarily like the movies portray it. But I would say that if you are a person who feels like you struggle getting through the day because you're just so sleepy all the time, and you feel like your brain is just constantly foggy, and you're to the point where you're experiencing hallucinations, even if it's as you're falling asleep or waking up. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell the difference between a dream and a hallucination. But if you're one of those people and you have vivid dreams, that's another symptom of narcolepsy, are vivid dreams, and sometimes terrifying vivid dreams. But you don't need all these symptoms to have narcolepsy. These are just what's common in people with narcolepsy. And basically, I think what I'm trying to say is if you are experiencing excessive daytime sleepiness, it might be worth getting checked out. The treatment does make a difference. I'm still overly exhausted a lot of the times, and my meds don't work consistently every single day. But when they do work, it's good. And having medicine for my cataplexy has been a game changer for me. I don't have to worry so much about big emotions. All this is to say that it is a difficult thing to live with. And if you are struggling and feeling tired all the time, don't just write it off as like, well, everybody's tired, because that's what I did for years and years. And I was falling asleep in random places, like I mentioned before, and just realized this is not sustainable. Nobody can function this way. So there's something excessive going on that is not the normal sleepiness that other people experience. So if you're feeling that way and you're just struggling to get through life, I urge you to consider a sleep study. And I hope this was helpful for you, or at least a bit interesting. Even if you don't have narcolepsy, I don't know, I find these things interesting. I find it interesting to learn about different disorders and such. So I will see you next time, and I hope you have the sweetest dreams.